about yoga and meditation and all this world. So fear is a protective mechanism that has been with us since our creation. So it actually helps us survive. It's the basic survival mode. A lot of you might have heard about the fight or flight response. I'm not going to go too deep into that because we can run another webinar on that if you want. But the fight or flight response, which is what makes us react if there's something, there's a threat to our lives, and that will create a reaction in our hormones and a whole lot of chemical reactions in the body to either fight, flight, so escape, fight, or freeze. A lot of people actually freeze when they are and they don't know what to do. They're going to overwhelm. That's another response of the nervous system. Now, the very interesting thing to point out in here is that the threat can be perceived or it can be real. So it can be something going on in our minds, and this is what I wanted to come to today, because we are surrounded by so many news which are actually triggering fear, and this has been, I think, the biggest of the epidemics in these very interesting times, more so than the actual real threat of the virus and the mild colds or the maybe more severe cases that we have heard about. So what happens is that the mind is constantly looking for experiences in the past to solve problems in the future. So the mind is constantly solving issues. So it's going to be picking something in the past to go to the future, past and future, past and future. But what happens when there's something happening that we don't have a database of to pick up from? And this is interesting because we are going through it's a time of uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen. We've never been through this before. All the independent people that work independently like I do as well, and not having work and not knowing what's going to happen. So it's a situation and that, in terms of the health, can we go out, can we not? So this is something there's no previous record of in our mind. So what happens is like the mind is going to start creating the worst case scenarios, and this is where it gets really dangerous for our mental health. So because there's one thing about actually listening to the news and being informed of what's going on, and the other thing is actually creating worse scenarios and what is actually being said, or what happened if and what happened there, because then things like complete empty supermarkets happen because people are panicking and forgetting about each other, and the fact that we will survive this. We are actually made to survive, our body, our minds. So having the awareness that our mind is going to be looking for worst case scenarios is super, super important and very key. And also the mind does not know what's real and what's imaginary, as I said before. So if you are imagining a worst case scenario, your body is going to be reacting as if that was happening. Yeah? And that is really, really bad and very detrimental to the immune system. And in times like we are going through now, we really need our immune system to be nice and strong too, because the body has this incredibly beautiful and almighty intelligence that knows how to deal with anything that actually presents in any given time. So this association is something that can happen from the fear, and this association is actually the denial of what's going on, which is the other extreme. So one is actually hypervigilance and being like really in a situation where we are creating all these worst case scenarios, but also the denial and the withdrawal can be equally detrimental. So these are two possible outcomes. Now, the Course in Miracles says that a miracle is the transformation from fear into love. And here's where I want to come into the positive and the message of these times that we're going through. And again, this is a massive topic, so I'm going to keep it short. We have the opportunity to go within, use this as an opportunity to retreat. And I don't mean going to kind of complete silence and everything, but really the opportunity to look into and be aware of our mind and what's going on and our patterns in this condition. So let's say, and this is my personal experience. My coping mechanism that I created since childhood was actually, when I get anxious or fearful, I would go for food. So eating, it was always my issue. And then I worked a lot on that. But I noticed the pattern in the last few days when I think that I'm going back to to food. So what is it really that I need to clear in myself? So it's a real big opportunity to clear the patterns around anything that might be coming up, because we have the space and we have the silence, and we have the time to actually look at the things that maybe in the past we created a busy life not to deal with. So in yoga, there's a concept called viveka, which is discernment and being aware. And the key to really manage all these situations that I just described is actually staying present. And staying present is one of the Buddhist as well qualities. You can be meditating when you're walking. You can be being aware and being present while you wash your hands. Now that we are actually singing happy birthday just for the 22nd, how about washing our hands and really being in touch with the feeling of your hands and the skin and the temperature, and really noticing bits of your body that you have not noticed before. And how about, if you do choose to go out and maybe really feel the heels of your feet and the tip of your feet walking, and the changing and the movement and the bouncing from your shoes into the floor, and notice the flowers, notice the leaves. That's meditation, that's being present. Because of doing, we were taught that success is being busy, and this is the time to unlearn that. So being successful is actually being present, being able to stay with what it is, whether it is fear, whether it is joy, whether it is a beautiful landscape, a sunset, the sun, or sitting in your house, maybe going through a project that you wanted to do for a long time, just being present and having your mind focused on one thing. So in terms of key, I've been kind of writing a lot of things down, and we try not to repeat what's been already said. But another key here is to be very mindful of what are we feeding our mind with and what are we feeding our body with. So in terms of feeding the mind, I would say be very careful of, again, the exposure to social media, the exposure to the media in general, even to Netflix. And so how much are we consuming? Because actually Netflix, and it could be a good way, or any type of movie, it could be a good way of actually escaping instead of being present. So again, discern there, how much are you consuming and what is it giving you and what you really need in these times. Because I've noticed a lot of people, they end up being overwhelmed from actually having been on internet or Netflix or whatever it is the whole day, and eating without really being mindful. So really reducing the time is a great thing. Also discerning the news that you are consuming. So I would say stay with whatever the government is, the government release of news as the main source of information, and everything else, just let it go. Then in terms of nourishing your body, the other thing I want to bring up, which is absolutely key, and it's an ancient medicine, is that we need to keep the pH of the body at its optimal. So you've probably heard a lot about eating alkaline foods, and it made me laugh when I go to the supermarket and I see all the snack shelves completely wiped out. We can survive with maybe a protein shake a day or maybe a salad a day. So there's no scarcity out there. There's actually plenty for everyone. We just need to be aware of what are we feeling. So instead of having a snack or Doritos or things which are not nourishing for the body, maybe switch that and have foods which are wholesome, more vegetables, more fruits. I would always say try to eat as organic as you can if possible. I know this is a particularly difficult time, but also decreasing the amount of coffee and sugar. Sugar in particular, sugar is really, really bad, and it depletes the immune system really quickly. And I would say like a can of Coca-Cola could actually kind of stop the immune system working for about 4 hours. So these are a few key things, so you understand what's the impact. Then reducing gluten is the other